Yeah, hi Kyle. This is Brandon Knight. We spoke the other day, dealing with the situation out here in Zanesville, Muskingum County. I hope you got a minute that I can talk to you.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know if I can trust these people to do the right thing. I'm hearing so many different stories. It's ridiculous, and I can't confirm any of it. Um, the court's not properly notifying me of court hearings or court dates. Um, I'm just getting like random people telling me different times and different dates that I can't actually validate or verify on the docket. And especially when I get conflicting information, like I had a couple people tell me that there was a hearing on Friday, but it was at different times. And I had no way to validate or verify what the actual time of the hearing was. And I didn't want to go disrupt the court while I was in session to ask the court if I got a hearing today, because the clerk of court and the other court personnel can't figure it out. Um, but at this point, I'm being given so many different stories. I don't know what to believe. And I just recently got off the phone with uh, her name's Tracy. I think she's the assistant of Cottrell. I can't remember his first name. I think he's a magistrate. But anyways, I got off the phone with her, and I mean, they're basically just threatening me, telling me that if I don't show up when they tell me to show up, even though there's nothing on the docket or I'm not being officially notified, um, they're telling me just to show up and basically accept the charges. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. They had 18 days while I was stuck in jail against my will to address this and to have a hearing. And I mean, there was for lack of better terms, there was a half-assed hearing in the municipal court where they muted the microphone and refused to let me speak, even though I was asked questions and I attempted to just object on some of the information that was incorrect to let the court know that they had incorrect information, but apparently they didn't care, so they muted my microphone and didn't give me the chance to speak. Uh, that was the only hearing I had in 10 days, or excuse me, in 18 days while I was incarcerated, and even up to this point, it's the only hearing that I had, and that was back on the 16th of June. Um, they came to the holding cell that I was in at the city jail here in Zanesville and uh, proceeded to assault me, handcuff me, and drag me practically on my face into this little room back in the back of the jail area. Sat me down in front of a computer screen and then proceeded to have this so-called hearing. But when I raised an objection, they immediately muted the microphone and didn't give me the chance to speak. And then at the end, when I don't know if I told you this yet, but at the end, when they did give me the chance to speak, I just simply asked a few questions that the uh, people in charge of this whole fiasco at the time didn't bother to answer, refused to answer. So um, I'm a little puzzled here because, I mean, according to the Supreme Court, the government and the courts don't actually have any jurisdiction over me, the living man. They only, in these maritime admiralty color of law actions, they only have jurisdiction over the fictitious person or the entity that only exists on paper, the all capital name that the government created as some sort of contract, but it's basically the negotiable instrument that allows me, the living man, to do business with other corporations, or with corporations rather. Uh, but at no time am I that person. That person is a non-existent being existing only on paper, and so what these courts are doing is they are, for lack of better terms, using strong arm tactics. That which reminds me of stories I've heard about, like the mafia and what gangs do to force people to submit, to accept this personhood identity or this person identity, this all capital letter name, so that way they can strip us of our rights, and then they can dictate to us what our rights are, and they can also do whatever they like, throw us in jail for however long they feel, because at that point we've been forced to give up our rights. And so it's a complete and egregious violation of due process. Not to mention fraud, uh, frauds and swindles. I think that's one of the federal codes I came across. I can't remember the exact nomenclature off the top of my head, but I have it outlined in my affidavits and notice of claim and fee and fine schedule. The one I don't know if you got a chance to listen to, the one that I posted on YouTube, my YouTube channel, that I recited verbatim what's in those documents. Um, at this point, I'm a little concerned for my safety and security. They're threatening me to that if I don't show up at the court, that they will come to arrest me. And I guess what I don't understand is if they had that authority, if I did do something wrong, according to what these people are telling me, all these rumors, according to them, I've already missed 3 possible hearings that they say were scheduled. And again, this is just hearsay, but according to what they're saying, there were supposedly 3 different opportunities to have a hearing. Once at 9 a.m. last Friday, once at 10 a.m. last Friday, and then I heard again today, Monday, at 10 a.m. But now I'm being told it's 1:30. And so they keep changing the story and not actually doing anything, performing any official actions or anything that I would expect if I was doing something wrong. All they can do is simply threaten me and threaten my safety and my security and threaten my freedom if I don't comply with what they say. But I have no way to validate what they're saying is true. In fact, what I'm reading, according to the rules of criminal procedure, the court has 15 consecutive days from the service of summons to have a preliminary hearing. Well, they failed to do that. We are much past the 15-day mark. The service of summons was officially on. They came and took me from the city jail to the county jail, and that was the first time I saw any paperwork. But that paperwork was shown to me on that date. It was the 25th of June. So at this point, we're well past that time frame. I've seen no continuance filed on the docket by anyone. So from my perspective, they're in default, and they basically don't have a case unless I walk into the court and accept the charges and give them consent. And so that's what, from my perspective, that's what I think that all this threatening, posturing, and threatening my safety and threatening my freedom, threatening to come arrest me if I don't show up, and all this stuff, it's all, I think, a trick. It's just to fearmonger me into going in and accepting these fraudulent charges. At this point, I don't know what to do. I can't trust these people, to be honest, and my gut tells me that if I walk into that courtroom today, they're probably just going to throw me in jail. I have no reason to think anything else based on my experience with these people. And so at this point, I don't know what else to do. And I'm not asking you for advice by any means. I'm sure you're limited on what you can say anyways, but I just wanted to get the call on the record and to let a representative from the state know what's going on with this situation and that this needs to be addressed. The only reason they're getting away with this kind of stuff and doing this kind of stuff to people like me is because the home rule status of the state and the fact that it empowers these people that either want to kind of operate in the gray area of the law, if that makes sense, or just flat out and blatantly don't adhere to the law and they just do whatever they can get away with, so that way they can continue reaping from the benefits, whether directly or indirectly, from the extortion that's being committed by fraudulently forcing people to accept this identity that's technically not them. Now, I guess when you look at the situation, if someone's willing to accept that and deal with the consequences of accepting that, then technically that's on them, and there really isn't much that can be done because that's their decision for themselves. However, I find it very concerning and extremely alarming when I see public officials, public servants, taking advantage of people's ignorance or lack of knowledge on a particular subject and using that to their advantage to profit from. And many of the people that I talked to while I was in the jail are in that situation where they're in there for some petty offense, but they have some ridiculously high bail amount that prevents them from being able to get out of jail. They're forced to use a public defender, which doesn't always they didn't always work in the best interest of the client or the individual or the man or woman that they're working for. And on top of that, I mean, to even be incarcerated in the county jail, I'm not sure if the city jail is the same way, but they claim that they can charge up to $30 per day per inmate to be incarcerated. So there's people, I'm sure, much like myself, and talking to them, I have no way to validate. I can only go by what they've said and their word. But as far as my own situation, I was there because of false and misleading statements and fraudulent activities by local public servants in the city, as well in the city of Zanesville, the municipal corporation of Zanesville, as well as the county of Muskingum County and the courts there, the Common Pleas Court, and and then I'm told that I've got to pay. I may have to pay daily to be there. And on top of that, it's a disgusting rat hole. The building's, I think, 100 years old. There's paint peeling off the walls and ceilings. It's disgusting. They don't provide cleaning supplies properly to be able to keep the place clean. It's disgusting. And in my opinion, it's cruel and unusual punishment to have anybody jailed in that facility because it's so old. I mean, there's rust everywhere. It's a potential medical nightmare. I'm surprised they don't have more issues with like tetanus and that kind of stuff, or maybe they give tetanus shots. I don't know, but yeah. At any rate, I'm extremely concerned and alarmed by this whole situation and the fact that these public servants are able to do this to people and get away with it. And I hope that what I'm doing is going to make a difference and bring some accountability. But at this point, there's no guarantee. And with no real feedback or reciprocation from any representatives in the state regarding this, it's extremely concerning. And especially on top of that, to not have any feedback or reciprocation from the FBI or the Department of Justice, who, according to what I'm told, has direct jurisdiction over holding these public servants accountable here locally, because the county and the state doesn't have jurisdiction over the city. It falls on the federal government according to this home rule status. That's the way it was explained to me. Although I don't read that in the documentation, I guess that's the interpretation that these public servants are wanting to use, because it's probably more conducive for them to work and operate in that gray area, and they can ignore certain laws or certain responsibilities and duties that they have, and they get away with it because there's no direct oversight, and because the Department of Justice and FBI is so busy with all these other things that they're doing, they probably don't have much time to pay attention to little old corporations, municipal corporations that are not adhering to the law and the constitutions and Supreme Court that binds them. But then on top of all that, like I said, the representatives that are supposed to be paying attention aren't. And that's extremely concerning. Now I'm in a situation to where I'm being forced to do things that I don't want to do under extreme duress, through threats of violence and threats of taking my freedom from me, because people can't seem to do their jobs right. Investigators can't seem to investigate a matter properly. I mean, heck, even detectives giving false and misleading statements to the courts, municipal court, the county court, court of common pleas, the foreperson of the grand jury, and so on and so forth, the prosecuting attorney, they all accepted false and misleading statements, and they're all operating based on those false and misleading statements, and they are destroying my life based on those false and misleading statements. And how none of them at this point have been able to take a step back and take an honest look at the situation, that's beyond me. Because I guarantee you, I don't even need to look at the discovery for the case. The prosecutor has nothing. They have no evidence. The only thing they have is assumptions and presumptions, and they may be able to get an expert to spout off some ridiculous stuff that probably doesn't even pertain, but because he's an expert, so, people are going to believe him. And that's probably how they're going to find a way to get over on me on this case and not be held accountable. That'd be my guess. And then with there being no oversight internally within the state and the federal government being so busy that they really don't have the time to pay attention, even though I'm screaming from the rooftops and waving my hands, it puts people like myself in a really tough situation. And so now I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do other than under extreme duress and through these threats of violence and taking my freedom from me. I'm going to be forced to go address this matter in the court, and essentially what it's going to do is it's going to give them my acceptance of the charges, in which I'm unwilling to do, but because I'm being threatened, I have no choice. See, if there was proper due process and if my rights were being adhered to and understood, then I wouldn't be forced in this manner. I wouldn't be threatened in this manner to essentially give up my rights, because that's what's going to happen as soon as I walk into that courtroom. That's what the way they're going to look at it is, here I am, do whatever you wish, kind of a thing. And I have apparently no opportunity to say anything. If I try to bring up an objection or anything regarding the matter, I guess that they're going to consider it contempt of court and arrest me on the spot. So I just have to shut up and let them do what they're going to do and accept it according to what I'm being told. And I've got all these conversations recorded, and they're on my YouTube channel now. I can't believe that this is happening. And with all of these people that work at all of these different levels within the state, from the city level to the county to the state and everything in between, I can't for the life of me understand how this is possible and how these people are getting away with this, unless for some reason, and some strange reason, you all are part of the problem too, and you guys are covering for them, like the Attorney General's office. Because even the Attorney General's office admitted that they treat police departments and municipal corporations differently from the other corporations, even though they're all corporations the same. They give special treatments to, and well, I guess the terminology they use is they treat police departments and municipal corporations differently than regular corporations that use unfair practices or dishonest practices, that sort of thing. So that's clear to me, based on the conversation I had with the Attorney General's office, that the Attorney General's office and staff is covering for these municipal corporations and the police departments and the persons acting on behalf of them in a manner that is subverting the rule of law. It's destroying our liberties and freedoms. And at any given point in time now, they can just come to my property and take me away by use of threat of violence and threat of my life and property. And I guess I'm supposed to accept it. I think this is utterly wrong, and I'll never accept it. But I'm having a little bit of difficulty understanding why there seems to be no feedback, no reciprocation. It's just kind of like I'm sometimes feeling like I'm speaking to a wall. But yeah, I don't know. I could keep going on and on and on. Like I said, at this point, I'm just trying to understand the situation, and it doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know if you're able to interject anything or maybe help me understand in any way, shape, or form of what I'm dealing with. If not, then I get that too. But I just, like I said, I don't understand how this is even possible.
I'm certainly sorry to hear about the details of your situation, and not being terribly familiar with law enforcement policies. I can't say that in the court system. Not say I totally know all the details, But I would say that, based on what you've described, I think following their directions and actually going to the court process, even though you don't fully understand what the issues are, I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what most people say. Most people suggest getting a public defender and just going to the court. What they don't understand is that by doing these certain actions, it's a symbol or a sign of acceptance and willingness to give up my rights to allow them to be my judge. And quite frankly, only God can judge me. These people are not judges. In fact, I think it's very ironic that they even talk about a grand jury and having a grand jury even hear the case when they consider themselves judges. It's almost a conflict in and of itself because they're not supposed to be judges. They basically are just like a referee for the courtroom, and it's up to the people to decide to make the actual judgment. So, and that's why I can't refer to these people as judges, because they're not judges. Anybody that refers to them as a judge is willing to give up their rights and let another man tell them what their rights are and what their rights are not, and impose any sanctions on them. That's what that is. It's a willingness to accept that paradigm and allow that man to have more rights than the one that's accepting of it. And that goes directly against the constitutions, because it says very, very poignantly and very point blank that all men are created equal. And basically and essentially, there is no one that has more rights than I do, nor do I have more rights than anybody else. But I'm constantly treated that way in these courts and by these public servants, as if they have more rights than I do, and that they can do whatever they want and get away with it. I've heard it come out of their mouths. They can arrest anybody for anything they want. That's a complete usurpation of authority. They're only supposed to have interactions with people that are actually committing crimes. Not assuming they're committing crimes, not presuming their guilt like they've done. Because, I mean, there is no innocent until proven guilty with any of this. When they can just make up false accusations and come to my private property and threaten my life and threaten my property and take my property and abduct me from my property under these false pretenses, traffic me from my property to wherever they see fit, and then hold me there for however long they wanted to. I mean, I couldn't even reach out to my family members, let them know what was going on, unless I was willing to comply with their demands. I mean, this is something that terrorists do in third world countries. We're supposed to have the rule of law here. We're supposed to be treated innocent until proven guilty, but that's not what's happening. My guilt from the beginning of all this was assumed and presumed, and has been, I can't think of the word. I guess assumed is a good enough word. I've been treated as if I'm guilty from the beginning. I mean, even according to the statements by the detective who initiated the whole complaint, according to this detective, he knows my thoughts and knows that what I was doing was intentionally to harass and intimidate and prevent people from being able to do their jobs, or I can't remember how they worded it exactly, trying to make it sound like I was doing it knowingly to hurt people. Like, give me a break. Like, they don't know my thoughts, and if they would pay attention to the actual evidence that I've been posting to YouTube for the last 3 years, and these recordings of the conversations that they're alleging is whatever they're saying that it is, even though they don't even have the jurisdiction, it would prove to them that they are wrong. But they don't want to pay attention to that. They would rather just dig in a little bit deeper and hope that they can get a fast one over on me, if that's the right way to say that phrase or whatever, and get me to accept these charges so that way they can destroy my life and get away with it. That's all this is. That's all this is. It's strong arm tactics. It's bullying to get me to comply and do what they want so they can extort me out of more money. I mean, hell, I've already had to give up all my money basically just to get my freedom back. Now, if I'm innocent until proven guilty, why should that happen? Right? I mean, that anybody anybody should be able to pay attention to that and give an honest answer. I know what the answer is. It's that they're not being honest. It's that they're doing everything they can to be dishonest just to get over and destroy my life and find a way to extort me for more money, whether it's through ridiculous and excessive bail amounts that are essentially set to prevent me from being able to get my freedom, so that way I can't file my paperwork with the court and get my testimony on the record. That's what that all was. It was a subversion of my rights and my ability of my due process and my ability to address this matter accordingly. But at this point, I don't even know if it matters, because they're ignoring my affidavits. They're ignoring my complaints. They're conveniently passing on their complaints from public servants, from these detectives that are utilizing false and misleading statements. They're conveniently processing their complaints on and passing on to the foreperson of the grand jury for consideration. But my complaints, they conveniently don't. I find that interesting. And then on top of that, to treat me in this manner, to threaten me the way they have so many times, threaten my safety, threaten my life, threaten my property under this color of law action, and for nobody to be paying attention to this, it's quite unconscionable. But I mean, the reason why it is this way is probably because most people don't know what their rights are. Most people aren't willing to stand up. And most all of our public servants have completely sold out and don't have the people's best interest at heart. Now, I hope that's not the case for Adam Holmes. That's the whole purpose of me reaching out to you guys, is hoping that I can find somebody who's willing to stand up and say enough is enough, and either get involved directly or indirectly, whichever way possible, but to make a difference for the better. Because when I look around, all I see is things getting worse. I see public servants ignoring the law more and more and violating the laws that they're supposed to uphold. And on top of all of that, ignoring their duties and obligations to actually protect and serve the people, not themselves. But unless we have accountability, nothing's going to change for the better. It's going to continue to get worse. And I mean, it seems like at this point that that's what our representatives prefer here in the state of Ohio. And to me, that's just a shame. I hope I'm mistaken. But until I see some tangible evidence of anything to the contrary to convince me that representatives actually want to do their jobs and do the right thing and hold these criminals accountable, well, until I see that, I guess I'll just have to accept the fact that these public servants are just really no different than the ones that I'm dealing with here in Zanesville and Muskingum County. And hell, I might actually be surprised. It might actually be even more corrupt the higher I get up the ladder. I wouldn't doubt it. Because it seems like the higher I get up the ladder that there's more protections and more ability to ignore the law and get away with it. So again, I hope I'm mistaken. I hope somebody can controvert what I'm saying and convince me that what I'm saying is not true. But until then, I can only go based on my actions, or excuse me, my experiences rather, and the actions of others and what they do and how they conduct themselves. If they're not willing to be honest and upright, have integrity and honor, then they make that bed for themselves. But at some point, this whole system has got to start working the way it's supposed to. So whether that's for you all to be involved in and have something to do with or not, I don't know at this point. All I know is that I'm sick and tired of dealing with this gut-wrenching confusion of what in the world is going on, because I can't make sense of any of this. How I can be dragged through this process and have my life turned upside down simply because I reached out to ask public servants to do their job that they're obligated to do. It's not like they have a choice. It's not like they're a private security firm that can make up what they want to do and not want to do. They are contracted by the city. They're contracted to protect and serve the people, and to not only give myself or give me equal protections under the law, but my property as well. And when they blatantly ignore the law and they ignore my nuisance complaints and don't even consider the nuisance an actual nuisance, but then find a way to make me sound like I'm a terrorist or something because I make some phone calls to ask them to do their job. It's just outrageous. It is absolutely outrageous. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't think it matters, because I think at this point these people are going to destroy my life and probably get away with it, and I'm not going to have a leg to stand on because I don't really have anybody in my corner. I don't have any family that can really help me the way I need help. I mean, they're helping me as much as they can, which I'm grateful for, by helping me with my animals and such. But I shouldn't have to put them through this stress and aggravation of having to help me with all this stuff, because these public servants are out of control and they're turning my life upside down to a point to where I'm almost unable to stay on my feet. I mean, this is just absurd. But again, I mean, I can say it until I'm blue in the face, and I don't know if it's even worth continuing to say. I mean, it is to me, but I don't know who's listening. So, but the proof's in the pudding and the eating of it too. So we'll see. I hope somebody's paying attention, not just for my sake, but for everyone's sake, for all the people that are being subjected to this kind of activity, because this is ridiculous. Nobody should have to deal with this at all. And to be basically tortured on my own property day in and day out by nuisance noise, not being able to get any relief from it, but then on top of that day in and day out nuisance, be attacked consistently and constantly by the public servants who are supposed to serve and protect me and my property. I mean, this is well above and beyond usurpation and abuse. I mean, this is a pattern of abuses and usurpations. This is a pattern of racketeering and influenced and corrupt actions by these organizations. That's a direct violation of the RICO Act in the federal government, the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. All of the evidence that I've gathered and all these actions that these persons acting on behalf of the police department and the municipal corporation of the city of Zanesville, and even now the county, Muskingum County, the Court of Common Pleas, and even the state of Ohio, because the state of Ohio is actually named on the court paperwork. So now these people have officially made not only the city, but the county and the state liable for their actions and the damage that they've caused, that I've outlined in my lawsuit, in my notice of claims, in my lawsuit, as well as the notice of claim that I filed in this criminal action for the actions that they've taken in disrupting my life and damaging, compromising my estate. But that's all being ignored, conveniently. I don't understand why, because they don't have more rights than I do, but they act like they do. In fact, public servants, when they take office and they act on behalf of a service corporation, especially under the guise of government, those persons actually give up their rights and operate under limited rights because of the fact that they're in that position. But here in this situation, I'm being treated as if I have less rights, which isn't the case. In fact, according to their oaths of office and according to their contracts, they have less rights. They've relinquished some of their rights to act in those capacities. And it's of my opinion that these public servants are taking these actions. It may be just out of sheer ignorance, because they don't fully understand what the law means and what it truly represents, and the fact that they're basically treating me as if I'm an employee of the corporation that they work for. And that's not the case. I'm not an employee anywhere. I'm certainly not an employee of any of their corporations. And I don't have any contracts with them that allow them to have direct authority over me, to ignore my rights and that sort of thing, and threaten my life and property and liberty. and think that it's okay. There's nothing like that anywhere. So I mean, like again, I just reiterate, this is all based on assumptions and presumptions, and the fact that the court doesn't even have jurisdiction over me, the living man. They only have jurisdiction over the person, which is the fictitious entity that only exists on paper that the government created for purposes of making money. That's another form of extortion. But I'm not going to get into all that. All I know is that I don't know what else to do, but more than likely I'm probably going to end up back in jail today because these people are untrustworthy. And they're going to threaten my life and liberty and freedom to strong-arm tactic me into walking into the court. And they're going to misconstrue that as acceptance so they can strip me of my rights and do whatever they want. That's the way they're going to look at it. And at this point, I mean, it's either that or call their bluff and hope that they don't send thugs to my house and put guns in my face. I mean, maybe this time they'll just shoot me. I don't know. But, I mean, why should anybody be forced into this situation? I mean, how would you feel if you were forced into this situation?
It would be very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, to put it very simply, you're absolutely right. This has been extremely hard. This has been extremely difficult. And especially after my experiences in providing services for this country, and to see that this is the way I'm treated. I mean, words can't even describe how disgraceful this is. And that's not even a strong enough word to use to describe the situation. This is beyond ridiculous. And I'm just wondering who's paying attention. Because I think I'm speaking pretty clearly. I'm articulating the situation pretty clearly. But who's going to pay attention? Who's going to stand with me? Because as it stands right now, I'm standing alone. I have no one in my corner. I've got family members that are there to support me morally, but as far as holding these people accountable or forcing them to a standard, I have nobody. I've tried to reach out to representatives. I've tried to reach out to other public servants within the state and county area. No one wants to help. And I find that hard to believe. Especially with as much money as these people are getting paid. I mean, this of all things, this is a direct conflict of our constitutions in the Supreme Court. The supreme law of the land. I mean, this flies in the face of everything our founding fathers stood for. But who knows? Maybe even all that was not exactly done the way that we were taught. Because I'm finding that a lot of things that I was taught in school and throughout my life, it's actually been incorrect. So we'll see. I mean, I hate being forced under extreme duress like this to do actions that I don't want to take. Because I know the outcome. My gut tells me, and I hope to God that I'm mistaken. Maybe they've had a change of heart. Maybe these people have seen the light. Maybe they had a coming to Jesus moment, and maybe they're going to act honorably. But I can't trust them. Every experience that I've had before this time has proven to me that I can't trust them, that they're going to do everything they can to threaten my life, liberty, and freedom and property. And they're going to do whatever they can do, lie, cheat, and steal, just to throw me back in jail so they can somehow profit off of it. Whether through a bond or a bond violation or more bail money or charging me to stay there, even though I don't want to be there and I shouldn't be there. But I mean, you would think they would at least provide decent food. If I'm going to have to pay $30 a day to be there, you would think they would at least pay, say $1.50 or whatever per meal. But I hear that they're barely even paying 80 cents per meal. The food there is ridiculous. On top of the conditions of the damn jail. it's atrocious. But I guess when they're making money hand over fist, they really couldn't care less what the back end looks like. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of all this. I can't believe I'm dealing with this. So, at any rate, like I've told you before, I record everything. I'm recording this conversation, if you want to call it that, and I'll be posting it to my YouTube channel like everything else. Um, I just hope at some point somebody's gonna start paying attention, and it would be nice if it was Adam Holmes and you guys and you, Kyle, and the other staff, your colleagues. But like I said before, the proof's in the pudding and eating of it too. So we'll see.
Alrighty, have a good day.
Yeah, I'll try.